Hello and welcome. This is the sixth lecture in our series on creativity. Let us have a quick recap as usual. We have seen right from the beginning that creativity involves creating new ideas, new concepts, new things which have values and which are very unusual, which are not as per the normal things. They are little bit abnormal. Those kind of things which when we create, we are doing a creative exercise. We had seen a number of tools in order to be creative. One of the tools is called 6 thinking hat techniques, in which we see various modes of thinking and how we can switch from one mode to another in order to achieve some results. We have seen in the last lecture things about alternatives, that how to find alternatives, what are the various techniques by which we can find alternative solutions to a problem which is given to us. We have also seen the topics on ideas and concept. Ideas are basically specific ways of doing things, and concepts are more broad ways of doing things. So, again it is a relative idea, relative thing. Idea and concept, a concept can become an idea, and further broader concept could become a broader way of doing things. We have also seen about the provocation, very little bit we have seen, we have just introduced the concept of provocation, and we had said that we would be using the provocation in a different manner, and we will see how the provocations are used first, and then we will see how the provocations are set. So, it is a sort of a reverse order in which we are going to learn. Now, let us come to today's topic. It is about movement. Once a provocation has been generated, has been set, is there, then what we do is we move, we change, we modify those ideas and concepts which are depicted in the movement, and that gives us some idea, some concept, some ways of doing things in much better way. Provocation in themselves are not very useful, per se they are not very useful, but when you modify them, when you change them, when you alter them little bit here and there, when you tweak them, then you get something which you can use in much better way. There is a difference between movement and judgment. In judgment, we analyze the concept and we either accept or we reject it. We find it profitable, or we find it less profitable, or we find it not practical, and we reject or accept the specific solution which has come from the creative exercise. In movement, we do not do that. We do not accept or reject a specific provocation. What we do is we take it as a stepping stone. We move from the provocation to a newer model, newer concept, newer thing, and then we try and we test whether that thing is going to work or not. So, this is the basic difference between movement and judgment. There are two fundamental ways in which movement can be generated or can be used or can be operated on. These are general attitude and systematic techniques. General attitude, once you are used to when you have practiced enough, when you have experienced enough, then it becomes a without a conscious effort you can do the movement technique. You do not have to work hard on it, it just comes just by chance, just by nature. So, it is basically to use the hunches. From a provocation you develop some hunches, some intuitive ideas, intuitive concepts which you can use as solutions or techniques. So, it comes by experience, it is not a conscious exercise. On the other hand, we can have systematic techniques by which we can work on the movement. We can, from the provocation, we can do the movement and get to a useful or better idea. There are 5 techniques of systematic nature. One of them is called to extract principles, feature or concept. Once the provocation is there, you have to move it, you have to make a movement, and how do we do the movement? the first technique is to abstract, just as we saw in our last lecture, we move from concrete to abstract. So, we take it and we try to find out what are the broader things in it, what are the broader ideas in it, what are the basic principles, what are the basic features involved, what are the concepts involved, and from that we get to some sort of a solution. For example, suppose in order to do some communication, when we are trying to find some ways of communication, one provocation came that earlier there used to be people who used to hit the drum and used to cry harder. He used to tell all the people in the villages that this is the order of the king or queen, and that order was read aloud, and that person was called as the town crier. So, bring back the town crier. Now, that is a very ancient historical technique. Now, nobody uses the town crier. So, somebody suggested as a provocation, bring back the town crier. Now, in order to make movement, we are analyzing this concept of town crier. We are extracting the principles, and what are the features of a town crier? That once he starts talking, it is not like radio or something that you just switch it off. It is not a TV program, it is not a radio program that you can switch it off. So, one of the feature of a town crier is that he will shout his whatever order is given by the king, he will shout it out. You cannot stop it, you cannot turn it off. Other feature is that he is up to date, he knows, because he is a live person, he knows what is to be done, what are the various things. He can answer questions. Suppose some questions are there in the minds of the villages, probably they would ask where from this order is come, whatever is are the instructions given to him, he can clarify. So, he can answer questions, he is up to date, he is customizable. That means, you can change he will whatever is the order given by the king, he may change it, alter it suitably, so that the villagers would understand. So, that customizable, that feature is there in the concept of town crier. Now, from out of all these features, suppose we pick up the feature that it cannot be turned off, you cannot turn off the town crier, and we want to find new ideas as to how to communicate with the people, with the target group. So, the concept which came from that is that of a free call. The concept is like this: suppose as an advertiser, as a person who is going to do the communication in the form of an advertisement, suppose you have a strategy that we will bear your telephone calls to the target group, to the future customers. Suppose you identify the future customers and you say that we will pay your bills. All that you will have to do is that in the middle of any call, there will be a small advertisement, small section of advertisement, which the sponsorer will insert, and that in the reward for listening to the advertisement would be that your phone call would be less costly, or it will be free. Similar to whatever we do in our TV, you have a TV program. Now, even though you pay the bills to watch the TV, the bill would have been more there if the bytes or the advertisements were not there. So, you may insert the advertisement and you can ask your customers, so that since he is talking to his mother or father or somebody, and then in the middle of the call it is interrupted and he says that we are sorry, but this is the message from our sponsor, and he listens to it. That will benefit both the customer, because his telephone call is free, and it will also benefit the sponsorer, because his message is being listened to. So, that is the useful idea which came out of this provocation of town crier. Second method of movement is called as the focus on the difference. So, whatever is the present practice and whatever is the provocation, whatever is being suggested by the provocation, find out what is the difference. If the difference, you can observe the difference, then it will give you some idea as to how it needs to be modified. For example, there is a provocation, the creative exercise is to find the various ways of modifying the stamp. So, stamp is the general area focus, and one provocation came is that normally stamps are small, they have some size. So, the provocation was that use a very long thin strip as the postal stamp. Now, this is a very, it is a provocation, therefore, it is very crazy idea, it is a very different kind of an idea, it may not be useful right in the beginning. So, the idea is just like extracting the principle technique. Here we are finding out what is the difference between present practice and the what is the difference. Now, the features which this particular provocation suggests is that it can be used for sealing. Right now, we have to use we are using something else for sealing the envelope. This technique, with this provocation, you may use the same strip for sealing also. Then right now the value of the stamp is printed on the stamp. Here, suppose we use this kind of a technique, probably we can modify it a little bit, and we can have a system in which the length of the stamp would determine the value of the stamp. Suppose 1 centimeter is equal to 1 rupee, that means suppose 5 centimeter long strip is there, which is to be used as the stamp, then you would know, since it is 5 centimeter, you can visually see whether it is 5 centimeter or 4 centimeters, things like that, and then that would be the length would represent the value. That is the difference between the today's practice and the proposed practice. Proposed practice is that we can use thin long stamp, and today's practice is the stamps have variable size. It is not necessary that 5 rupees stamp would be of 5 square centimeter or something like that. It can have any this thing, it is just the value is printed on it. Suppose we use this kind of a technique of finding the difference. These are the various features of the differences. Third difference is that there would be more space for the writing of the address. So, this is the difference between today's technique and the proposed technique or proposed strategy. Here we might have as the best possible solution, probably we can go for the length being proportional to the value. So, this is the feature extracted, which is also the difference between the today's method and the proposed method. The third technique of movement is called moment to moment. Assume whatever is the provocation, assume that this provocation has become the reality. Then how life is going to change from moment to moment. For example, suppose we have seen this example earlier also, square wheel. All the cars have the round wheel, and here suppose we say that as a provocation we have to have an idea which is different than today's exercise, and we say that the cars do not have the square or the spherical or other round wheel, but their wheel is not of the round shape, it is in the shape of a square. Now, you visualize you have a car in which the wheels are there and the wheels have the shape of squares. Now, how is it going to move? You want to make it move. Your first thing is the moment to moment when you go, you will say that it is difficult to move because it is square. The movement of the round wheel were sharper, were smoother. Here you have to make lot of effort to make it work. But anyway, suppose you by some way you start the car and then you will feel the jerk, because whenever it will move up and then it will move down, it will again move up and down. That is the kind of movement it is going to have, and it is going to have a bumpy ride. Now, if it is going to have a bumpy ride, then by moment to moment exercise we have visualized this thing. Now, what will happen? Now, we further make ourselves the question, what will happen if the road itself is bumpy? If the road itself is bumpy and your wheels are bumpy, then bumpy plus bumpy could be more bumpy, or it could either cancel it out. So, suppose we want to have a smooth ride, can we not have wheels whose shape is such that the bumpiness of the road is compensated by the shape of the wheel? So, this is a very useful and very strategically important concept which might have come, which may come from such creative exercise of finding the provocation and using the movement technique of the moment to moment. So, this is one way of looking at it. Suppose you are not able to find the movement, you are not able to do anything further from the given provocation. What you do is, this is the one of the technique is use it moment to moment. You live the life moment to moment. The fourth movement technique is called positive aspects. You focus on the positive aspect of the provocation. For example, suppose we have a provocation that now these days all the cars have the engines which are there either in front of the car or in the back side of the car, but hardly ever we have seen any car which has the engine on the roof. So, suppose we test this provocation of engines on the roof. What will happen if the engines are there on the roof? So, what you do is you try to list out all the positive aspects or all the advantages which are you are going to have when the engines are there on the roofs. One of the positive aspect is it will be easier to repair, because you just park it there, have somebody on there. So, you can easily take it, you are not disturbing the passengers or something like that. Another advantage may be there would be more room, because you have just consuming the top part of it, there would be more room. There would be less risk of damage on collision. Whenever there is a collision, it is if it is on the front side, it gets damaged. If it is on the back side, it gets damaged. But if it is on the roof, there will be less chances of the engine getting disturbed or engine getting damaged due to collision or by accident. It would be easy to cool because it is on the top. So, all the air comes, it will cool it in a much efficient manner. Of course, there are disadvantages also. That is why we do not put the engines on the roof, but this is one of the technique. As to finding the positive aspect, criticize it, but with a positive bias, that this, suppose I use this provocation, what will be the advantages. The fifth movement technique is called circumstances. You ask yourself, if you accept this particular provocation, under which circumstances it will have more value. For example, we take the provocation of engine on the roof, or provocation of rounded bottom glasses, or you can take the provocations of yellow shirt candidate. Now, what is the provocation of rounded bottom glass is, we have already seen the provocation of engine on the roof. The provocation of rounded bottom glasses means that you have a glass. Now, all the glasses have flat bottom, so that you can put it, and if you put it, it does not topple. Suppose we say we have a provocation that glasses do not have the flat bottom, but its bottom is spherical, it is rounded. Now, what will be the what will be the consequence of such a thing, that you have a glass which does not have the flat bottom, that if you drink from this glass, you have to fill, and if you take you have not completely, you have not finished drinking from it, and you put it there on the surface, it will get spilled. So, you will have the drinker will have the motivation to finish up. So, whatever is the drink to be given, you must finish it, and then you can put it on the table, or you can take it down. Now, under which circumstances you can have value to this particular kind of provocation? Suppose we have a drinking goblet which has a totally spherical shape, and there is a it is open on the top, so that you can drink from there. Under what circumstances will it be advisable, it will be useful, it will have value? Is that suppose you want to give some medicine to the patient. Now, patient, what he may do, suppose the medicine is not of right taste, or it is not palatable to the patient, he will drink half, and he will put it there, and he will say that I have forgotten. That is the tendency of the patients, they do not care so much of drinking the medicines. Suppose that is the case, and suppose you have this kind of a goblet in which the medicine is there, and you must finish it, you cannot leave it midway, then he will not be able to put it down. So, this provocation will have value under the circumstances like these. There is another provocation which is called as the yellow shirt candidate. That means, suppose I wish to be promoted in an organization, and suppose there is a custom in that organization that whoever is the person who wishes to be promoted, he should wear a shirt of, or a the shirt or whatever of the yellow color. Then such persons would be easily, it will be, you will be able to identify such person. So, whenever he goes to his boss, he sees the color of his shirt, he says, okay, he wishes to be, he is declaring himself to be possible candidate. He is he is saying that I wish to be promoted, kindly see me. Then his behavior, his attitude towards such a candidate, such a employee would be different. He will treat him in a different manner. Probably he will test him whether he gets the results or not. So, this is the kind of provocation. Actually, frankly speaking, or historically speaking, the word candidate comes from a Latin word. In Greece, there was a practice that whoever was the candidate for Senate, there used to be a body called Senate. They used to wear white clothes. They used to wear a specific kind of clothes which was white. The candidate comes from the word white. Since they were wearing white color aprons, therefore, everybody would know that this person is a candidate. That means, he wishes to be a senator. But again, we have forgotten over the history this particular trivia. Suppose we wish to bring back this specific kind of an activity, then under what circumstances will it be beneficial? That is something to be seen by the organization. What would be the advantages? That is another way of looking at the movement. What would be the disadvantage? That would be another way of looking at it. But this is this is one way of treating the provocation. What will be the results of movement? Whenever we do movement, what are the possible results? What are the possible outcomes? One is negative. For example, in the case of our yellow dress provocation, our provocation says that a person who wishes to be promoted should wear a specific kind of aprons or shirts, yellow color. Suppose somebody is wearing yellow color shirts for years and years together, and he is not getting promoted. What will it happen? What will be the impact on his psychology? He will get fed up, he will get depressed. So, this is the negative aspect. Such a negative aspect can also come as an outcome, but it can be also countered by saying that if a person is not able to get promoted despite wearing yellow color shirts, he may also think that I have tried my best, but I could not get promoted, or he may adjust to this reality that I have declared my candidature, but I was not able to get through. But this is negative and positives are there in every circumstances and every exercise. So, one of the possible outcome of movement is negative. That is something which is to be seen, to be judged. Second possible outcome of movement is that you may get back to the previous idea. The same idea may be coming, when you are moving, but you get back to the existing practice or to an idea which you have already generated. So, if that happens, what you do is you move on. You say, okay, this is, we have encountered it earlier, let us not dwell too much on it, let us move on. Third possible outcome is that it may lead to an interesting point. An interesting point is something which you value, which you think that it is important, but it may not be the solution to the present problem. Whatever is your present focus, this specific focus, specific provocation is very good, but it need not lead to the solution to the focus problem. So, what you do is you just note it and you store it and you keep it in mind that this is a very interesting point which does not serve the purpose right now, but it may serve its purpose in some future exercise. So, you note it, store it and use it later. Then there are differences. In a group, there may be differences of opinion about how this particular provocation is going to be useful or otherwise. So, what you do is you notice the difference, or you can notice the difference between the various provocation and keep it in mind, store it and dwell on it, work on it in a later stage. Fifth result is called value. That it is similar to the interesting point. You just you catch it, you give it some time and apply it frequently. Use it, store it, and you can apply it in a later stage more frequently perhaps. Sixth result is called that we have reached the concept, which is a broader category, which is a very broader kind of principle. That kind of concept has been reached, and you can store such concepts for your future exercises. Seventh is reaching of an idea. Concepts and idea, we have seen that they are different. Concepts are general, ideas are specific. So, you can also reach to an idea which may or may not be useful for the present exercise. You store it, you make a database of all such ideas and use it wherever your creative exercises need them. It can also happen that you are reaching nowhere, you get totally confused, no output, nothing. So, whatever concepts have been generated, you just harvest them. Just like in the field, you sow the seeds and you get the harvest and you cut it down and then you can use it in later part. Similarly, there is an idea of harvesting in creative exercises also. You can harvest the concepts and use it wherever the things are needed. Now, we come to the second topic of today's discussion. It is, we have seen the movements. Now, we are going to see how the provocations are to be set, how the provocations can be established, can be generated. We have already told you that we are doing the reverse way of doing things. First, we are seeing how the provocations are used, then we are seeing how the provocations can be set. Now, what are the various sources of provocation? We have seen the provocations are very crazy kind of idea. They may not be useful, they may not be the solutions right now, but they may lead to a useful concept if you develop it further. Now, the provocations come from lots of sources, just as creativity has lots of sources. It can come from chance, by accident, by mistakes, or by deliberate exercises. We do not wish to go into the other parts of the thing, we have already seen it in our earlier lectures. We will now see how deliberately we can set up the provocation. What are the techniques of setting up the provocation? First technique is called escape. Escape means you see, you notice whatever is taken for granted, it is something which you do day in and day out. you always do it, and it becomes part of our life, and we will find it extremely difficult if the things are otherwise. So, we oppose what is practiced. You first notice what is taken for granted, what is so obvious, so omnipresent, that is, we treat it as if it is always going to be the case. For example, when you go to a restaurant, you have a lot of components of a restaurant. There are waiters, there are menus and things like that. Waiters are supposed to be polite. Waiters are supposed not to argue with the customers. Waiters are supposed to smile, be decent. So, this is something which we take it for granted, that if it is otherwise, probably the restaurant is not good. But what if we have a provocation that the waiters are hostile, waiters are not polite, waiters are not of the kind of mental makeup which is expected from a waiter, but it is random, it is something different, it is hostile. From the hostile waiter, now hostile waiter is definitely not an idea which is going to be useful in its reality, because waiters are supposed to take order. If they become hostile, who will come to the restaurant? But from that comes the one idea, that idea of a theme restaurant. Suppose you set up a restaurant and give publicity to its uniqueness, that in this restaurant you can find the waiters of your choice. Suppose you are very good, suppose you wish to argue with the customer, suppose you take pride in defeating the waiter or something like that, suppose you wish to vent out your anger on somebody, you will find a candidate here, you will find a waiter who will fight with you. Or suppose you wish to have a waiter of another kind of mental makeup, you can order. Here, just like you order food, maybe you can order the mental makeup, the psychology of your waiter. I want a polite waiter, you will have polite waiter. I want a hostile waiter, you will get a hostile waiter. You want whatever, you can have some choices depending on what kind of training you can give to the waiters. Or probably it also can lead to a theme park kind of a restaurant where people, the waiters are having their dummy revolvers, they are attired like a western cowboys or things like that. So, you can have waiters who do not have the uniforms of waiters, but they are having uniforms of characters from a movie, things like that. So, this is from the hostile waiter, we have stepped up, we have stepped on, we have moved, and we have come to a solution or come to a idea of a theme park kind of restaurant. Another thing which we take it for granted is that there is always a menu. Whenever you go to a restaurant, you have a menu card, you ask for a menu card, what is there on offer. Now, suppose we negate it, we say okay, nothing doing, we are not going to have menus. What will be the outcome? Again you can go by movement to movement, and you try to visualize what is going to be there, what will happen if there is no menu. In such cases, you rely on the chef. You say that okay, this chef is so good that whatever he prepares, I always like it. Sometimes when you see the menu, you have two kinds of things in your mind, that this dish I have tried a number of times, I have always been satisfied with this, I do not want a surprise, I do not want to have a new taste. So, let me have this kind of this dish, I will take it because I was always satisfied with this dish. Second totally different thought is there, you choose a dish which you have not tasted, you have never heard of. Sometimes you choose a dish which you have not tasted, but you have found lot of people appreciating that dish. So, okay, so everybody talks about this particular dish, so many of my friends who share my taste, they also have appreciated this dish, let me have that dish. So, these are the three possibilities. Now, suppose you have a restaurant in which you have such a good chef whose name is, who is very famous, and you say that, you know, come to our restaurant and you will, whatever the dish, whatever dishes the chef prepares, you will have it. So, that will be the, you know, it will serve all the three kind of purposes. Suppose the chef prepares a dish which many of the customers like, they will like it. If he prepares a new dish which nobody has tried, probably they will try it. So, there are going to be some advantages of this kind of a strategy, where you trust the chef. So, you can have a genre of restaurant which you can call it as trust the chef restaurant. So, this is a new concept, new idea, new way of restaurant you have generated, new, you know, method of using the menu, using the, you know, preparing the dishes you have prepared, you have discovered or invented. Second technique is called stepping stone technique. That provocation is a stepping stone. You hop on it and you hop to the next stone and things like that. Sometimes what happens, you have to cross a river. The river is big, you can take a boulder, you put the boulder over there, so that, you know, you can step on the boulder and you take another boulder and you take it front of it and keep on walking on the river. That way you can cross the river. This is one way of crossing the river, not a very popular way, not a very advisable way, but just for the sake of our understanding, let us think that this is the way it is done. Earlier in ancient Greece, they used to move the boulder when they were preparing, when they were you know, constructing the ancient this thing, those pyramids, Gizas and other things. What they used to do is, they used to have a boulder, they used to put the locks, used to put the boulder on the one thing, tilt it, have another lock and keep on moving the logs. So, this way it was being done. It is similar to that kind of a thing, stepping stones. There is a very famous movie by Charlie Chaplin, which many of you might have seen it. It is called City Lights. When this, you know, when he used to work in a very unique way. Charlie Chaplin was a genius. He had a broad concept of his movie. What he used to do is, he used to have some concepts, he used to shoot it, then he used to forget about it. Another ideas come, he again shoot it and does it like that. That was in his early way of his career, but City Light is a later kind of a movie where there is a very clear storyline, and that storyline is probably, you know, it was a very unique kind of a story, not well written, or, you know, it was not written in formal manner. He had developed his sense of the movie. Now, there was one gap. He in his story, there is a blind woman, blind girl. She believes that our central character, our hero or our protagonist, he is a rich person. Actually, this person, our hero, is a poor person, he is a tramp, and the lady believes that, the heroine believes that this person is a rich person. Now, the question is, how she is blind, so she cannot see it. Now, the question was, how this lady is going to believe that our hero is a rich person, whereas anybody who sees him, he will definitely say this is a tramp, he does not have the proper clothes to wear or something like that. Now, that was his challenge, and he got stuck up on this particular in this particular theme. You know, here he got stuck up. The movie was not moving because the story was, he could not develop the story. Now, he was walking around and he saw somebody, you know, he saw the sound of the thud of the car door being slammed, and he noticed that a person who is very rich doesn't care so much of the value of the car, only that person will slam the door of the car with a thud. Any other person will very very smoothly. The person who has great value for his car, he will do it very smoothly, very gently. So he got an idea that so this is a stepping stone, that I can use this idea, because the lady, our heroine, can only hear, she cannot see. Now she hears the thud of a car door being slammed, and she immediately notices that this is a rich person. Now another question, so this is a stepping stone, we have moved one step further. So our idea is that we should use the thud of the car. Now the question is, why on the earth our tramp is going to travel in the car? Why should he slam the door of a car? Then it's a he wanted to make it funny. It was supposed to be tragicomic movie. So in order to make it funny, he thought that somebody is crossing the signal, somebody is crossing the road, and by crossing the road he is using the empty cars as his passage, and that is how he finally arrived at the solution, that our hero, he is traveling from one end to another on the road. He opens the door of one car, goes through it, opens the door of another car, and finally he opens the door of the last car, which is all the cars are empty by chance, and he passes through it by that way, and he slams the door of the last car with a thud. So this technique of stepping stone was used in such way of developing the concept. It is not there in the book, but we have read it in some other magazines and some other sources. But idea is to how stepping stone can be used from one's provocation to another to the last, and so on and so forth. Just as we had the concept of the fan, similarly we can use a multiple multiple provocations. The third method is called reversal. Now there is a difference between reversal and escape. In escape, what we do is we deny, we negate whatever is the current practice. Here we may change the order in which the words come in the current practice. For example, I have orange in breakfast. I have orange in the breakfast. This is something which you can take it as a routine thing, which is not a boring thing. It is usual thing. You can take it for granted. Or I take fruit juice in the breakfast. Suppose you say I do not take fruit juice in the breakfast, that becomes an escape technique. The difference between escape technique and reversal is that here we say oranges have me as breakfast. I do not eat oranges, oranges eat me. Now this is a very provocative kind of a thing. It's a very unique kind of a thing. It's a very different kind of a thing. That becomes a very high value kind of a oranges. But how do we use it? Maybe we are thinking about a very big place where there are lots of orange juice and people getting enmeshed into it, and that kind of an idea may be useful in some exercises of creativity. Another thing which we take it for granted is that callers pay for the mobile bill. Whenever you call somebody, you pay the bill. Now suppose we reverse it. We don't say that we do not say that callers does not pay their mobile bill. We say that we also do not say the receivers pays the mobile bill. We further reverse it, and we say the receivers get paid for the mobile charges. Under what circumstances will it be useful? That is something which you can think about, which you can argue about. Suppose you get a call from an advertiser, you just immediately will take it down. You will say, no, I don't want to listen to this thing. But suppose such calls, for listening to such calls you are getting paid. Okay, he says that for every minute you will pay, I will pay you 1 rupee and if you have plenty of time, you are unemployed, or for some reason you just want to pass the time, you will say, okay, nothing, not a problem. He is paying 1 rupee per minute, why not listen to it? So you will subscribe to such service, and you will keep on receiving calls. Maybe they may not be useful to you, maybe you will tell it to other people, maybe there could be some kind of a scheme by which, if suppose you get another discount, another subscriber to it, probably you will also get a discount. So this kind of scheme is there, and such schemes have been used by the internet users, where somebody wishes to increase his searchability. Suppose you have a website and somebody searches for it and it gets on the 100th page, nobody will be able to go to him. So his searchability criteria should be increased, and it does happen when there are lots of hits. So there are people, there are agencies which can help you go to the first page on the Google search by having lot of people hit your page, and they do it by hiring people who do not have any interest in the website, but they pay you to hit that particular web page. So such strategies have been used in today's world also. Fourth method is called exaggeration. There, you take it for granted that certain quantities are there. It is similar to negation or escape, but here it is quantitative. We have a phone call, or rather phone receiver, in which there are number of dialing buttons are there. Suppose we have a provocation, we build a provocation, they set a provocation that only one dial button is there, then that provocation will come under the exaggeration, because this is something which is quantitatively very different than today's practice. Or suppose you say that there are 100 phones in a household, or suppose you have a provocation that the cinema ticket cost $100. Now all these kind of they are there in the book. I will not explain all of these provocations, but I will explain, or rather we will talk about the last provocation. It is cinema ticket costing $100. That is, cinema ticket is so costly that going to a movie is like investing in a movie. From that comes the concept that you go watch the movie, and then you can go to the box office and you can say that I wish to invest into this movie, so that the producer of the movie will get benefited, and his next movie will be financed indirectly by the people who have watched the movie and liked it. Other method of provocation is called wishful thinking. You just see what you want, what you desire from a feature or from the focus point. For example, you have a problem of the car parking, and you wish to find out what could be the possible ways of limiting the car parking problem. So one provocation comes which says that the cars limit their parking. That means there should be some discount of parking for less time, or there should be some punishment, indirect punishment for parking for a very long time. So suppose you have from this comes the idea that suppose you have a parking lot in which the rule is that whenever you go and park, there would the fees is less, there would be some fees would be there, but it is compulsory that you must keep your headlights on. Suppose you park in such a parking lot, and suppose you park it for a very long time, then your battery will be drained. So only those people who want to go for something and who wish to come back within a reasonable time, only those people would be able to park in such particular kind of parking lots. So this is a useful idea which comes from this provocation of cars limiting their parking. It is a wishful thinking that people should park their cars for a very short time, for as short time as possible, and this is an indirect disadvantage that they would be having if they park it for a longer time. Other wishful thinking is that shoplifters, there is a problem of shoplifting. In the mall, people take something and they just walk it from without paying it. Such people are called shoplifters. Our provocation says that shoplifters should identify themselves. Now, this is a useless thing because nobody would, just like a provocation, it is a crazy idea that you want the shoplifter to raise his hand and say that I am the shoplifter. That is something which we do not expect thing to happen, but indirectly how we can implement this idea is by having a mall in which they offer the apron. The apron is such a shape that you will not be able to use anything to put it in the pocket. There are no pockets in the apron. So, small things here and there you will not be able to put it in your pockets. So, if you use this kind of an apron, you get a discount, but it is not compulsory that everybody would be using such apron. So, those people who do not use the apron are probably more prone for shoplifting. Suppose I wish to I do not wish to lift the items, it is not my habit. So, I will put the apron, and suppose somebody has the habit of shoplifting, he will deny the discount and he will opt not to use the apron. Only on such people you can focus that these are the possible shoplifters. So, you watch these people. For others, you can be assured that these people are less likely to lift from the shop. Now, let us come to the other topic. It is called as the random input method. This is similar to generating the provocation, but it is a very different kind of a method and very creative method, very different, it can be very useful, and it is very mechanical. Therefore, if you are not very creative, probably you can start with this kind of a method of provocation, generation of the provocation. So, the method comprises of generating a set of nouns in a random order. Suppose you have listed out 60, 70 nouns and you put it on some sheets of paper or small chits, and then you randomly pick it up. Then you will have a number of you will have nouns whose order you may change, or it will allow you to generate a provocation. For example, suppose our focus area is how to improvise the product of cigarette, and suppose from the random list you have picked up the random the nouns as traffic lights. Then you juxtapose it against the focal point and you get cigarette and traffic lights. Now, what is the connection between these two? That is something which you have to do a creative exercise of doing it. Now, what does the traffic light reminds you of? Traffic lights are green, yellow and red. That means a cigarette can also be dangerous. It can also be harmful if you smoke it too much, but those people who are accustomed to smoking and they wish to give up smoking, they may have this kind of a cigarette pack in which there would be some band going from green to red, and they can limit themselves as to how much of it they are going to smoke. So, this is an idea which comes from this kind of a random input method. We do not we strongly condemn the practice of cigarette smoking, but this is an item which has come from the book. So, therefore, we have given it to you. You can modify it suitably for some other applications. For example, suppose you are using, let us say, oil, and suppose oil you are consuming too much of oil and you wish to limit it to certain extent, when you are using in your kitchen. So, you can use a similar kind of a method, that you can put the oils in small tubes and you can put some sort of a label on it, so that in every preparation and every serving only this much of oil would be used. So, this is the beauty of the creative thinking, that from one concept you can move on to another, and from another you can move on to the third one. Now, under what situations can random input method can be used? It can happen that you got stagnated, you tried so much, you got lot of ideas, but no new idea is coming. You tried all other techniques, but it was not useful enough, it was not fruitful. So, in order to have another opportunity, you can use a random input method, because it is a mechanical kind of a method. The provocations come ready made. All you have to do is you have to link the provocations with the focus, or it can happen that you got a blocked up, or it can happen that you have a blank sheet, you are not started at all and no provocation is coming to your mind. In such situation, since it is a mechanical kind of a technique, it comes easily. Or it can also happen that you already found the solution and you want some additional ideas. For under that circumstances also you can use the random input situation to generate further more ideas. What are the various tips and tricks in order to use the random input method? First thing is that you do not try too hard in linking the random words to the objective area or to the focus area. If you do it too hard, probably you will lose the provocative nature of the method. Also, we do not advise using the anagram. Suppose the word comes and you just change the sequence of the characters in the word, that changing of the sequence is called anagram, okay, where the same sets of letters are used in two words, but their sequences are changed. For example, ART art and RAT rat, they are anagrams of one another. So, when rat comes, you do not change it into art or something like that. That is something which we do not advise. Do not take too many steps. If you take too many steps, again you lose the provocative nature of the method. Give it sufficient time. For every provocation which you generated using the random method, give it sufficient time, and if it leads to the present solutions, discard the random word. Suppose methods are, it is not getting you anywhere, you can change and you can use a new word. In summary, we have seen in today's lecture how to use movement, various techniques of applying. Once the provocation has been generated and you want to move, various techniques as to how that provocation can be analyzed and moved, we have seen it. We have also seen various methods of generating provocations, and lastly we have seen the random input method, which is a mechanical kind of a method in which you can generate the provocations by using this technique. In the next session, we will learn about the sensitizing techniques and applications of lateral thinking techniques. Till then, goodbye and thank you.